The next article I wanted to look at is titled Dave Hayes Says God Will Compel the Military to Remove Biden from Office. This is on rightwingwatch.org and it's written by Kyle Mantilla. Now, we covered this a while back, actually. I covered this story forever ago. This is from February 12th, 2021. So it's an older story, but I wanted to cover this one first because there's a new video out by this guy of him saying some really weird shit. So I figured what we'd do is we'd take a look at his first video from February, and then we'll look at his next video. So let's read the article and see what it has to say about him. Dave Hayes, a self-declared prophet, Christian author, and leading online QAnon activist who's better known as the Praying Medic, has been rather quiet ever since former President Donald Trump left office, likely because none of the bold predictions Hayes made about Trump arresting and executing his political enemies ever came true. Despite the fact that Trump is now out of office and the QAnon movement is falling apart, Hayes continues to keep the faith, posting a video on Rumble Wednesday in which he predicted that God will soon force the military to remove President Joe Biden from office. Let's watch the video that goes along with it and see what he had to say.
The military at some point is going to step in and make some kind of a move that's going to change the complexion of our federal government. Now, some people have heard the interview with General Flynn.
Okay, let me give you a little bit of context to this. So, basically, Trump lost the election, fair and square. It is what it is. Biden has been inaugurated now. Here we are. I mean, this was February 12th, so this was close to a month after Biden was inaugurated. Say 3 weeks after, right? And this guy's still talking about it. Are you serious? He's still going on about this. He's saying the military is going to step in and stop Biden and reinstate Trump. Are you fucking serious, man? At what point do you give up? Honestly, at what point do you give up? So, as a lot of you know, General Flynn has played right into the hands of QAnon. He has been a QAnon supporter for a while now. He's given QAnon signals. He's used the QAnon catchphrase, which is, where we go one, we go all. That's their whole catchphrase, which honestly I think is kind of fucking stupid, but whatever. Not my movement. They can say what they want. So Flynn said that stuff, and he has clearly marked himself as a QAnon supporter, obviously because he wants to take part in the control methods that are happening here. And after the election and after the inauguration and everything else, here we are, mid-February, when this guy was putting this video out. And Flynn came out and said publicly, there's no plan. Military is not getting involved. It is what it is. Accept it now, right? Flynn is done with it, I guess, now. He realizes that it's hopeless. Nothing's going to come of this. It's pointless to continue the QAnon charade for him. So he's not going to bother anymore. And he told the QAnon people to give it up. It's over. So let's see what this guy here, Hayes, what he had to say in response to Flynn's thing about the military not getting involved.
People have heard the interview with General Flynn, where General Flynn said that there is no plan for the military to step in. I was listening to Monkey Works, and he interviewed a guy a couple days ago. And that guy also said there is no plan for the military to step in and do anything.
It was pretty definitive. It was definitive. They said, that's it. Not happening. Just give up on it. They're trying to distance themselves from it and trying to pull people out and say it's over. It's not happening.
Well, I would like to suggest an alternative viewpoint on that.
Okay.
If the military had a plan to intervene in American politics and General Flynn was aware of it, I guarantee you he wouldn't tell anybody what he knew.
Oh my God, dude. Is this guy ever going to give up? You got to be joking. You cannot be fucking serious with this. Flynn just wouldn't say anything at all, if anything. I mean, if we're sitting here pretending that this is fucking real, which I don't know why we would even bother, Flynn would keep his mouth shut. He wouldn't outright come out and say, there is no plan, give it up already. He wouldn't say that. He'd just not say anything.
Publicly. For operational security.
Operational security. That's one of Q's code words, if you will. Loaded language that this cult uses to kind of identify each other. They use a lot of loaded language like operational security and red pill and LARPing and normies. Those are really common words that are used in the QAnon cult to identify each other. That type of language. That's on the Byte model, loaded language and cliches. That's one of the ways in which you identify cults, is if they use loaded language, thought-stopping techniques, cliches, things like that.
If there was a plan for the military to step in, and General Flynn knew about it, there's no way he's going to tell anyone publicly about it. Operational security. There's no way he's going to tell. So what General Flynn said may or may not be true. He may sincerely think there isn't a plan. If there is a plan and he knows about it, he couldn't tell anybody. So there's no way General Flynn is going to come out and say, there's a plan, the military is going to step in and do all this.
This is sad, man. I feel bad for this guy. I feel bad for the members of QAnon, honestly. Like, a lot of these people are just normal people. They're normal people who were suckered into believing something completely outrageous and ridiculous with zero evidence behind it. No reason to believe this stuff. And they bought it. They ate it up hook, line, and sinker. And this guy is sitting here trying to mull it over in his head and justify it and work around all of the evidence against what he believes, refusing to accept reality. It's just like a Jehovah's Witness. It's just like a Mormon. Despite contradictory evidence, they refuse to drop the belief system, no matter what. Even when everybody around them is dropping it. Even when their leadership is dropping it. Even then, they're refusing to give it up. It's fucking sad.
You're never going to hear that from General Flynn. We're getting to a point where the military, I don't think, is going to have a choice but to step in. And I'm not going to go any further into that other than to say I think the...
Oh, please do. Please do. By saying I'm not going to go any further into that, he's implying that he has knowledge that other people don't have. And if they did have it, then it would put their movement at a disadvantage in some way. I hear that kind of thing all the time from cult members. I'm not going to get into that too much, but I'll just say blah, blah, blah. We'll just say this. People are desperately trying to give the impression that there's more to the story that they can't say right now, but just trust them, they're correct. And that's exactly what he's doing here.
I don't think he's going to have a choice but to step in. And I'm not going to go any further into that other than to say I think the military will be compelled to step in. Sort of like if you've read how in the Old Testament, God would draw a king into battle against another king. Even though that king wouldn't necessarily want to get into that battle, God has a way of making it happen. I think even if the military is not interested in getting involved in this whole Joe Biden administration, I think God is going to make it so that they don't have a choice.
Okay, interesting. So he's saying that God is going to step in and force his hand, force everybody's hand. God is going to force people to hand over the presidency to Trump, basically, right? Okay, couple of questions, follow-up questions. Why does God give a shit? Why would God give a shit about what was happening in the United States of America when there are starving kids in Africa across the entire fucking continent? Why would God care about this fucking country? The politics in this country. Why would he give a shit about any of that? I mean, Jesus was all about caring for the poor, right? Said it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. If you want to follow me, sell your possessions, give them to the poor. God gave a shit about people who were suffering. Why would he give a shit about the richest fucking most powerful people in the U.S.? Why would he give a shit about them? If anything, The God of the Bible that he's describing here would be focusing his efforts on Africa, on the poor in America, on the poor in the entire world. Why would he care about some rich dickhead who lost an election? Why would he care about that shit? They've worked Trump into their theology. They've worked him into their theology. He is like a messiah. I'm not joking or being hyperbolic. Trump is like their new Jesus. Trump is like their Doe from Heaven's Gate. He's like their Jim Jones, their leader. Trump is a part of their belief system now. And there's no getting rid of him. He's here to stay. The next part of this clip is the new video that just came out, like recently. So I figured we'd give this one a watch and see what he had to say.
I think that Trump knows when the states are done doing their investigations of the elections, when enough of the people are pissed off about the fraud, when enough people get red-pilled.
More loaded language, you hear that? Red-pilled? That's loaded language I mentioned just a few minutes ago, along with normies and LARPing and operational security, stuff like that.
I think we're going to end up with a new election, a redo of the 2020 election.
That's not how our Constitution works. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the U.S. government is structured. It wouldn't play out like that at all. If, for some reason, Biden was removed from office, which isn't going to happen, I'm sorry, it's just not, then Kamala Harris would be next in line to be the president. Now, there's a possible scenario where the Biden administration is removed. That's a possibility. And if that happens, Biden and Kamala would both go, and then the Speaker of the House would become president. They're next in line. And then I believe it's next in line is the Senate pro tempore or something like that. I think it's Chuck Grassley. It's like the oldest member of Senate or the longest serving member of Senate or something like that. I don't even remember who's next in line, but it would not be Trump. There would not be another election. That's not how it works. That's not how it's ever fucking worked. It's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how this country and this government operate. They just do not understand how it works.
A redo of the 2020 election. And I think Trump knows that's coming. So he doesn't have to commit to 2024 because I think we're going to have a redo of the 2020 election at some point. I mean, look in Myanmar.
Fascinating that he's coming up with explanations for why Trump isn't committing to running in 2024. You'd think the dude would just say, yeah, I'm running in 2024. Or you would think that he would just come out and say, yeah, we're just going to hold another election soon, before 2024, where I'm going to be elected. You'd think that Trump would just come out and say that if that was part of the plan, right? But part of the QAnon mantra is trust the plan. And here we are. I mean, every part of the fucking plan has failed so far. At what point do you stop trusting the fucking plan?
We're going to have a redo of the 2020 election at some point. I mean, look in Myanmar. Military takes over and says, oh, guess what? We're going to do a new election, paper ballots, and we're going to count the ballots. We're probably looking at something like that here in the U.S.
That would be really disturbing if that happened, because that means a full-blown military takeover, and it does not end well when that happens. It does not end well. We have lots of examples of that happening throughout the world, and it's bad when that happens. Another thing that happened in Myanmar, they said we're going to hold a new election, but we're not going to do it for like a year. That gave them time to establish their control and their authority in the country before actually running an election, if they even hold one. Who knows if they're even going to hold an election now? I mean, I don't know if Myanmar is actually going to or not. Really disturbing what's happening over there. What's happening in Myanmar is basically exactly what happened in the 2020 election here in the U.S. with all of the propaganda about stealing this thing and that thing and the fraud and blah, blah, blah. Same exact things. Same exact operation. Same propaganda being spread. Except in Myanmar, it worked. In the U.S., our institutions were too strong. It didn't work. It's pretty disturbing. Let's keep listening.
And we're going to count the ballots. We're probably looking at something like that here in the U.S. And so Trump doesn't need to commit to 2024 because I think something is going to happen before then.
Where does the delusion end with these people? When will they be forced to face the reality that it's over? Q was fake. Trump lied. Like, when are they going to come to that realization? How much evidence do they need to smack them in the face before they finally accept the truth?